How far can the West's obsession with Africa lead it? They have done everything from forcing Africa to sign deals to controlling its leaders.
More and more, our politics is enabling the worst in us. And this is your generation's challenge, our generation's challenge. We are no longer seeing our opponents as sort of the other side, but as the others, as targets, as someone who is not fundamentally like us. The more politics preys on our divisions, the more we become defined by our divisions. This leads to a view of life that is a zero-sum game view.
But now, as many African leaders have refused to work with the West, it has decided to attack Africa's undersea internet cable. They still claim unknown forces carried out the attack, but it only signals to the West. Or perhaps there is another actor at play that no one was expecting. Let's find out who it is. Once considered a ubiquitous presence in our lives, the internet is now under siege in Africa. A recent blackout left countless individuals grappling with severely degraded connectivity or complete loss of access. This abrupt disruption on a Thursday morning sent shockwaves across the continent, disrupting not only personal communication but also crucial business operations, service sectors, and productivity for those heavily dependent on online resources for their work and daily activities. Initially, the outage was attributed to damage to undersea cables, a common vulnerability in Africa's internet infrastructure. However, as speculation mounted, questions emerged about the true nature of this blackout. Was it merely an unfortunate accident, or could more sinister intentions be at play? Many voices raised concerns about whether this outage was a deliberate assault on Africa's burgeoning commerce and developing democratic processes. The timing and scope of the blackout fueled suspicions, prompting a closer examination of the events leading up to and following the internet disruption. The ramifications of such a blackout extend far beyond inconvenienced users unable to scroll through social media feeds or send emails. It exposes the fragility of Africa's digital infrastructure and raises pressing concerns about the continent's readiness to withstand similar challenges in the future. In an increasingly interconnected world where digital access is synonymous with economic opportunity and social inclusion, any disruption to internet services can have profound implications for development and progress. For businesses, especially those operating in the digital realm, the blackout delivered a harsh wake-up call, highlighting the need for robust contingency plans and diversified communication channels. From e-commerce platforms struggling to process transactions to remote workers unable to access vital resources, the impact reverberated across industries, underscoring the interconnectedness of the modern economy. Furthermore, the blackout casts a spotlight on the broader issue of digital rights and governance in Africa. As internet shutdowns become more frequent across the continent, activists and human rights organizations increasingly voice concerns about government overreach and the erosion of civil liberties. The blackout reignited conversations about the importance of safeguarding online freedoms and holding authorities accountable for any measures that infringe upon them. In the aftermath of the blackout, efforts to restore internet connectivity were met with technical challenges and logistical hurdles. Repairing damaged infrastructure and ensuring reliable service delivery requires coordinated efforts from internet service providers, governments, and international stakeholders. However, amidst the urgency of restoring connectivity, it's essential not to lose sight of the deeper issues at play, including the need for greater investment in digital infrastructure and the protection of online freedoms. As Africa grapples with the aftermath of this internet blackout, it serves as a stark reminder of the critical role that digital connectivity plays in driving socio-economic development and fostering democratic participation. It highlights the importance of building resilient internet infrastructure that can withstand unforeseen disruptions and resist attempts to stifle free expression and innovation. Ultimately, the blackout prompts a sobering reflection on the challenges and opportunities inherent in Africa's digital future. But what caused it? Was it a cable failure or a covert attack? The recent wave of internet outages that swept across a dozen African countries has sparked intense speculation about the true cause behind the disruptions. At the forefront of this debate are questions surrounding whether the failures in multiple undersea telecommunication cables were simply a result of natural calamities, or if they were orchestrated acts of sabotage aimed at crippling Africa's digital connectivity. MTN Group, a leading network provider in Africa, quickly attributes the outages to failures in critical undersea cables, emphasizing their significance for West African connections. These cables serve as lifelines for vast swathes of the continent, facilitating crucial data transfer and communication channels. However, the narrative took a more ominous turn when Microsoft suggested that seismic activities, possibly triggered by an underwater earthquake off the coast of Côte d'Ivoire, were to blame for the cable damage. Here's a reminder to please like and share the video and subscribe to our channel to watch more videos on Black culture, history, civilization, and identity. Let's continue now. Cloudflare, a global internet infrastructure company, corroborated these findings by identifying a consistent pattern in the disruption's timing, particularly affecting West African countries. The impact reverberated far beyond the immediate vicinity of the seismic events, extending to countries like Namibia and Lesotho. This widespread reach highlights the interconnectedness and vulnerability of Africa's digital infrastructure, where a single point of failure can have far-reaching consequences. As discussions intensify about the nature of these disruptions, concerns about the potential motives behind such targeted attacks come to the forefront. The timing of the outages, coinciding with significant political events or unrest in some regions, raises suspicions about possible covert attempts to disrupt democratic processes or destabilize economies. Such conjectures, while speculative, cannot be easily dismissed given the strategic importance of digital communication in shaping political discourse and economic activity. While the exact causes of the recent internet outages in Africa may still be shrouded in ambiguity, one thing remains clear. The need for proactive measures to safeguard against future disruptions has never been more pressing. As the continent marches towards a digitally driven future, resilience, innovation, and collaboration will be key pillars in overcoming the challenges. Now, the question is, why would anyone want to attack Africa? The question of why anyone would want to attack Africa through disruptions to its undersea internet cables is simple. Several potential motives could drive such actions. Firstly, Africa's strategic importance cannot be understated. With its vast natural resources, burgeoning economies, and growing geopolitical influence, it's not uncommon for foreign entities to seek to gain or maintain control over the continent's affairs. Disrupting internet connectivity could destabilize governments, disrupt trade, and sow chaos, potentially serving the interests of rival nations or non-state actors seeking to weaken African states. Secondly, disruptions to undersea internet cables can have profound economic repercussions. Africa's reliance on digital infrastructure for trade, commerce, and communication means that any disruption can lead to significant financial losses. Competing economic interests or actors may seek to gain an advantage by undermining Africa's connectivity, potentially benefiting financially from the resulting instability. Moreover, in an increasingly digitized world, cyber warfare has become a prominent tool in the arsenal of nation-states and other actors. Targeting Africa's undersea internet cables could be part of a broader cyber warfare strategy aimed at disrupting communication networks, gathering intelligence, or undermining the stability of African nations. Furthermore, disruptions to internet connectivity can have profound implications for democratic processes and political stability. By targeting undersea cables, malicious actors may seek to undermine elections, suppress dissent, or manipulate public opinion, thereby influencing the political landscape in their favor. Lastly, Africa's growing importance in global affairs means that disruptions to its connectivity can reverberate far beyond the continent's borders. Foreign powers may seek to assert dominance or maintain their influence by disrupting Africa's digital infrastructure, thereby shaping global power dynamics and geopolitics. And what impact did this all have? The recent internet disruption in Africa, while initially attributed to undersea cable failures and seismic activities, has prompted prominent voices of many experts to sound the alarm about deeper implications lurking beneath the surface. In expert analysis, the timing of the internet blackout raises red flags, coinciding with major trading activities and preparations for elections in several affected countries. This synchronicity leads experts to question whether the disruptions were merely a stroke of bad luck or a calculated action to destabilize key sectors of African economies and democratic processes. While the official explanation of undersea cable disruptions may offer a convenient scapegoat, experts urge a more critical examination of the underlying geopolitical and cyber-political dynamics. They warn against dismissing these disruptions lightly, emphasizing the need to thoroughly explore their implications for Africa's digital future and socio-economic stability. They argue that by delving deeper into the motives and actors behind such incidents, African nations can better prepare themselves to defend against future threats and mitigate their impact on vulnerable populations. Central to experts' concerns is the heightened vulnerability of a continent where over 500 million people are now connected online. Once heralded as a tool for democratization and economic empowerment, the internet has become a battleground where competing interests vie for control and influence. As Africa's digital footprint expands, so do the risks posed by disruptions to its online infrastructure. Experts' call to action is a poignant reminder of the stake is involved and the urgent need for proactive measures to safeguard Africa's digital sovereignty and democratic aspirations. In light of experts' insights, the recent internet blackout in Africa is more than just a technical glitch. It is a wake-up call for policymakers, businesses, and civil society to confront the broader challenges of digital governance and security. By acknowledging the deeper implications of such disruptions and heeding the warnings of experts, African nations can chart a course toward a more resilient and inclusive digital future. So, what should Africa do now? The ambiguity surrounding the motives behind the blackout highlights the pressing imperative for Africa to prioritize cybersecurity and fortify its telecommunications infrastructure against potential threats. In an era where essential services and businesses increasingly rely on the internet, any disruption poses a significant risk, potentially leading to economic turmoil and widespread chaos. The need for proactive measures to bolster cybersecurity and enhance telecommunications resilience cannot be overstated. In collaboration with industry stakeholders and international partners, African governments must invest in robust cybersecurity frameworks, advanced monitoring systems, and rapid response mechanisms to detect and mitigate potential threats in real time. Furthermore, there is a pressing need to diversify Africa's telecommunications infrastructure to reduce reliance on vulnerable undersea cables and ensure redundancy in connectivity options. This entails exploring alternative technologies, such as satellite internet and terrestrial fiber networks, to enhance the continent's digital resilience and mitigate the risk of future disruptions. Beyond technological solutions, fostering a culture of cybersecurity awareness and education is paramount. Empowering individuals, businesses, and government agencies with the knowledge and skills to identify and mitigate cyber threats can significantly enhance Africa's overall cyber resilience and mitigate the impact of potential attacks. But who can be behind this? Can it be West, as Africa is getting closer to China and Russia? Maybe they are jealous? Africa's increasing proximity to China and Russia,
where one group has to win at the expense of another. All of this is slipping further into our daily lives. So we are finding ourselves too easily retreating to the comfort and the conformity of our tribes. Social media just amplifies all of these trends. We have an industry where you can make money on feeding fear and feeding resentment. We're caught in this paradox, where we are more connected than ever before, but we could not feel more disconnected and more alienated from each other than ever before.
Has undoubtedly shifted the geopolitical landscape, potentially sparking reactions from traditional Western powers. This evolving geopolitical scenario raises questions about who could be behind disruptions to Africa's undersea internet cables. Firstly, Western powers have historically held significant influence in Africa, and any perceived encroachment by other global actors may trigger responses aimed at safeguarding their interests. The competition for strategic influence in Africa, particularly regarding access to resources and markets, has intensified recently. Thus, it's conceivable that certain Western actors, concerned about losing their dominance in the region, may resort to disruptive tactics to maintain their foothold.
Well, I think this is where Russia's strategy on Africa seems to vary slightly from the US's. Russia is not interested in engaging on any domestic policies in this country if they don't directly impact Russia's interests. So, for example, Russia's influence across the Sahel in countries like Sudan and Central African Republic and Mali, and going westwards into Burkina Faso, it's linked to their ability to extract gold and other commodities which will help it fuel its war against Ukraine. So it's Russia's not invested in the inner workings of those countries in anything beyond how it will impact those extractives. It's sort of cherry picking the countries it feels are going to be important. It's not looking for a broader level of interest related to, for example, rule of law, or even changing some of the trading elements that Africa has with other partners. It is actually aiming for a lot less, and by that token, it can actually achieve a lot more.
Furthermore, the increasing connectivity between Africa, China, and Russia has the potential to reshape global power dynamics. This realignment could unsettle traditional power structures, leading some Western nations to view Africa's shifting alliances as threatening their interests. Consequently, disruptions to Africa's internet infrastructure could be seen as a means to hinder the continent's progress and assert Western control. What benefits can the West get by doing this?
With this recent surge of high-level officials coming to the continent, is still very much the same tone, I think, of charity first and partnerships second. My worry is that this strategy will just reproduce those same old dynamics rather than bring about genuine partnership between the US and various African nations.
If Western powers were behind the disruptions to Africa's undersea internet cables, several potential benefits could be considered. Firstly, by destabilizing Africa's digital infrastructure, Western powers could aim to maintain their influence and control over the region. Disruptions to internet connectivity could hinder Africa's economic development, political stability, and ability to assert independence, thereby ensuring continued reliance on Western support and guidance. Moreover, Africa's growing ties with countries like China and Russia may be viewed as a threat to Western geopolitical interests. By disrupting Africa's connectivity, Western powers could seek to undermine these relationships and assert dominance in the region, preserving their strategic advantages and alliances. Additionally, such disruptions could create economic opportunities for Western companies to step in and provide solutions or services to restore connectivity, resulting in financial gains and a stronger foothold in the African market. Furthermore, Western powers may justify their actions as necessary for security reasons, citing concerns over cyber threats or the spread of extremist ideologies. By portraying themselves as defenders against such threats, they could justify interventions or increased military presence in the region, further consolidating their influence. Lastly, by controlling the flow of information within Africa through disruptions to internet connectivity, Western powers could limit access to alternative narratives or viewpoints that challenge Western hegemony, reinforcing existing power structures and narratives favorable to Western interests. Now, you must be thinking, on one hand, the West says Africa is poor and can't help itself, and on the other, it is obsessed with it. So, what's going on? What are they hiding?
One of the focuses on what we will do with African nations and peoples, not for African nations and peoples.
The apparent contradiction between the West's portrayal of Africa as impoverished and incapable of helping itself and its simultaneous obsession with the continent raises questions about potential hidden agendas or motives. While the West often presents Africa as a charity case needing assistance and development aid, its continued involvement and interest in the region suggest a more complex reality.
Well, right, but the problem is, of course, that saying it doesn't make it so. And I think that we have to look at where decisions are being made and whether or not African voices are being included in those decision rooms. Whether it's the chamber of the UN Security Council or the executive boardroom of the World Bank, or frankly behind closed doors at a G7 summit where just this last June, G7 leaders decided on the devastating and crippling sanctions campaign against Russia, which has severely impacted Africans' ability to purchase and import grain and fertilizer from Russia. So we're seeing already in this administration, Africans not being included where those decisions are being made. So
one possible explanation is the strategic importance of Africa's vast natural resources, including minerals, oil, and arable land. Despite its portrayal as impoverished, Africa is rich in resources crucial for sustaining global economies. The West's interest in Africa may stem from a desire to secure access to these resources, maintain economic dominance, and safeguard their interests. Moreover, Africa's growing population, rapid urbanization, and expanding consumer market make it attractive for investment and trade opportunities. The West's obsession with Africa reflects a desire to capitalize on these emerging markets and tap into the continent's economic growth and development potential. Furthermore, geopolitical considerations significantly influence the West's engagement with Africa. The continent's strategic location, proximity to key shipping routes, and geopolitical alliances make it a battleground for influence and power struggles among global powers. The West's interest in Africa may be driven by a desire to maintain or expand its geopolitical influence, counter the influence of rival powers, and advance its strategic objectives. Additionally, historical factors, such as colonial legacies and exploitation, continue to shape Western attitudes and policies toward Africa. The West's obsession with Africa may be rooted in a desire to maintain control, perpetuate dependency, or even atone for past injustices, albeit in ways that serve their interests. Do you believe the disruptions were accidental, or could they have been a deliberate strike on African nations? Why can't the West live without messing with Africa? Let us know in the comments section what the West wants from Africa. Do you want to watch more videos like this one? If so, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon next to it. We have decided to bring videos on something nobody talks about: the Black culture, civilization, history, and evidence about how glorious Blacks have been. Thanks for watching, and until the next video, stay tuned.